Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to another fantastic Cook Along Live. Tomorrow, we have a super game going on. It is some kind of a sports ball game. They throw a pig skin around. I don't know very much about it, other than it should be fun. But you know what's going to make it even more fun? Some snacks. So we're going to make a really cool snack spread today. We've done this a couple years ago with different snacks. The only returning favorite is deviled eggs. Last time we did caprese skewers. We also did wings and of course the deviled eggs. Today we're going to make queso, nice dip, goes really well with tortilla chips. We're going to make some French onion dip, really easy. We're not going to do anything fancy with it. I've done a bunch of other French onion dips, and honestly I keep coming back to this one because it's my favorite. And then again, deviled eggs. So we have all the ingredients up on the website, cookalong.live, https cookalong.live. You can get ingredients lists there the week before our episodes. You can also like and subscribe on YouTube, and you'll see a little notification pop up when I have a live stream scheduled. They're every weekend. Trying to do them every weekend. So far, we haven't missed a weekend yet, but they do change depending on what's going on that weekend, trying to not conflict with events. Some weekends a Saturday is a big day, some weekends a Sunday is a big day, so I kind of try to alternate. Speaking of weekends, and yes, we are absolutely getting hungry, or trying not to get hungry. Don't get hangry. Next weekend, I'm not going to be around. I'm going to be down in Los Angeles, actually Anaheim, for a work convention. And because of that, I've already taped next week's Cook Along Live. We're going to be showing you how to break down a cooked crab. So that's a lot of fun. Should be a pretty cool episode. Pretty short, about half an hour or so, but it'll keep the streak going. We'll be doing one episode a week this year so far. Haven't missed a weekend, and not planning on missing a weekend. At least not yet. We'll see what happens later in the year. So we're going to start with our deviled eggs. They're going to take the most time to do. They're not very difficult, but we have to get them started first because we need to get these things hard boiled. So grab 6 eggs. You can absolutely do a dozen if you're making it for a large crowd. Just remember that you'll end up with twice the number of deviled eggs as eggs that you put into the pan here. So I'm starting with 6, so I should have 12 deviled eggs. Get these guys back over here. And I don't know about y'all where you guys are, but where I'm at, egg prices have gone right back to where they used to be. They're still limiting the number of cartons that we can take, but everything's right back to where it used to be about a month ago. So let's switch over to the sink cam. We're going to fill the pan up with just enough water to cover the eggs, and we'll talk about that while we're doing it. So a lot of times I see in recipes, filled with water just to cover. I've seen a lot of chefs fill it just until it's like barely less than a centimeter over whatever it is that they're trying to boil or poach or whatever it is that they're doing. I like to go about a centimeter because some of that water is going to evaporate off, and I want to keep them covered while they're simmering. The amount of water isn't so important. It's just the fact that you're not filling it all the way up to the top because we don't need to boil that much water or simmer that much water to heat the eggs through. So fill it with a comfortable amount of water. You don't need to go very much higher than the level of the eggs, but don't just barely, cover them. Cover them so that they're covered. We got some animals running around in our feet today. I'll switch back over here. I'm just going to stick with this scene here. They're just eggs in water. You can see that they are in the pot, covered with water. We're starting them off cold. We're not poking any holes. We're not doing anything weird. We're just putting them in water, and we're going to get this to a high setting so that it comes up to a boil. Perfect. While we're waiting on this to come up for a boil, I'm going to grab the lid for it because we're going to be using that in just a second. Make sure you know where your lid is. And we're going to go ahead and start prepping all of the stuff for our queso. We're going to have chopped up tomatoes, we're going to have chopped onions, chives, all kinds of stuff. So while this water is coming up to a boil, we're going to kind of get a head start on that. No more bedeviled eggs. No, they must be actually deviled eggs. Bedeviled is not good enough. So go ahead and grab just one tomato, Roma tomato. It can be a big one, it can be a small one. It's not super important, but we're going to go ahead and get it quartered. So just cut right through it like that. We'll switch over here. We'll also get it cut like so. And I guess I'm still going to use this. We're going to just kind of scoop out the seeds with our knife so that we're just left with tomato. All of the kind of goober and seed pocket and all of that, not necessary. Adds a bunch of liquid that we don't really want and doesn't really add much flavor. We're going to go ahead and do that. Get these guys out of the way. And then what we're going to do is we want to cut these tomatoes. We want to dice them, but we want to dice them into like 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch cubes. We don't want to go too small with this. They're actually going to be sauteed in the pan with a couple of other vegetables. So just give them a nice 1/4 inch dice. You can go bigger if you want. You're not trying to make these super duper small. You want to keep them identifiable. Like so. And what you're going to be left with when you're done is just a little pile of diced tomatoes. And I guess it's worth mentioning, all of the ingredients that we're about to kind of prep for the queso are entirely optional. If you don't want to add tomatoes to your queso, you don't have to. Just omit them. The real thing with the queso is going to be cheese, evaporated milk, not condensed milk. Condensed milk is super sweet and very syrupy. Evaporated milk is not. A little bit of cornstarch, some spices, and some green onions. I've got this for the deviled eggs. Actually, you know what? If you want, you can add double tomatoes. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to our onions. Which I've got right here. And you want a full bunch of onions. I think on the recipe page I put a 1/2 cup, but a full bunch is pretty close. We're just going to take off the tips. And then what I like to do is just peel off the first layer of onion. And that usually cleans up any of the dirt that's on them. And then I'll give them a quick rinse to get any of the extra off. So just kind of peel off that first layer of onion. And it gets like 99% of all of the dirt off. You still have to check the corners, the little creases here for grit, because that can absolutely happen. But this just cleans them a lot quicker. Also, a lot of times the outer layer is the one that's got the kind of dead stem on it. So you're pulling those off as well. This is always the least enjoyable part of making any dish that has onions in it, is actually peeling them around, because this is where you're going to start crying. If you're prone to crying when you're peeling onions, just get a pair of chemical goggles. You look kind of nerdy when you're peeling the onion, but man, it saves your eyes from watering. They're like 20 bucks. They should be like 20 bucks at your local hardware store. Great investment. The next thing I like to do with my onions before I give them a kind of a rinse is I take off about a 1/2 inch of the green stalk up here. Because this is, again, is kind of where everything dries out. Tends to not be as, good looking. And yeah, I know it's a bit of vanity, but we're just making everything look a little bit more uniform, a little bit nicer, a little bit tastier. There we go. I'll see you over at the sink while we give these a rinse. You don't really have to rinse them all that much. Just make sure that you're getting into the corners so that if any dirt has kind of accumulated in there, you're rinsing it out, any silt or anything like that. And then sometimes I'll peek down the onion, and if I see that there's any dirt or anything kind of lodged in there, I'll give them a quick rinse with the water going just straight down the stalk or the stem to try and kind of flush it out and rinse it out. That way I don't get any grit in what I'm cooking. Then I just turn them upside down and take them out. All right. Come back over here. Let these guys dry. Actually, let's go ahead and see if our... Yes, our camera is working this week. Last week we had technical difficulties and this bad boy did not want to cooperate. This week, looks like he's doing a little bit better. Feels a little bit more like a team player. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to separate these onions. We want to cut the whites for what we're going to be sauteing or what we're going to be simmering in with the queso. And we want to save the greens for at the end. So looking at our onions, you'll notice that the true white part of it is literally like just this. We want to go higher than that. We want to go all the way up to where the stalk kind of separates and becomes a Y. And all we need to do is line them up like so. And they don't have to be perfect, but they need to be lined up. And then we're going to cut these like we cut anything. We're going to turn our hand kind of into a claw, take our knife, use the back of our knuckle as a guide, and just slice down. If you don't want your onion rings rolling around all over the tray, like rolling off your cutting board, rolling off the counter, cut at a little angle, because that makes them oval shaped and they won't roll. And we don't need these to be super finely diced either, or super finely sliced either. But we do want to make sure that they're all about the same thickness. And here we are getting to some green, so I'm just going to set those aside. There's some more greens. My water is starting to boil, so I'm keeping an eye on that over on the side there. Going to keep cutting these back until we get to a little split in the stalk like so. We've got all of our whites separated from the greens. And if a green tries to escape, that's fine. Just put them back on. Cool. So my eggs are boiling. Oh, this isn't going to work the way I wanted it to. Let's see what we can do with this. Aha, look at that. So our eggs are boiling over here and fogging up the camera. Perfect. So what we're going to do is just turn off the heat and cover them. Just like that. And we're going to let them sit for 14 minutes. Hey Siri, set a timer for 14 minutes.
14 minutes, starting now.
Yeah, you can see me upside down here in the little reflection. Ha, that's cute. Cool. So we've got our onions chopped. We've got our tomatoes diced. We'll get this set back down over to here. I don't expect to move this around too often, but kind of a cool little angle to get a little closer to things. There we go. Perfect. Wrong way. This is why we do it live, because it's more fun. All right. There we go. Welcome to the jungle. And adjust this to make it a little bit more level. Yeah, I don't think I'll move that around. I'll have to figure out a different solution for the pots and pans. But we got our whites all chopped up here, so what we're going to do is take these and just move them to the side. And essentially what we're doing is we're doing like a mise en place for our queso, because a lot of this stuff we want to add pretty quickly into the pot, as it's kind of simmering away. We don't want to spend a lot of time prepping this while we're moving somewhat fast, because we don't want anything to burn. And then same thing with the greens. We're just going to go ahead and chop these up, dice them up nice and fine. And take your time with it. I mean, I'm going pretty slow today because my knife is dull, super, super dull. I need to sharpen it. I'm just being really lazy and not getting around to it. And I really shouldn't even say that. I've just been so busy this week. I have not had time to really even think straight. It's been one of those weeks. Not a bad thing, just busy. There we go. With our greens, we'll set these probably over to the other side so we don't accidentally grab them when we put the whites into the pot. There we go. We're going to want a little bit of garlic, 2 cloves. Go ahead and make them large cloves. I love garlic, and I think that it gives the queso really nice flavor. You can use garlic powder if you don't have fresh garlic, but I don't understand why you wouldn't have fresh garlic, so try to use fresh if you can find it. We'll just go ahead and peel these like so. Give them some love taps, and this is going to end up being 3 cloves of garlic, which is fine. I'm all right with that. Like I said, I like garlic. All I'm going to do with my garlic, set it down on the cutting board like so, take my knife, smash it. It flattens it down and also kind of breaks it apart. And now all I need to do is layer it on top of itself. Slice it long ways like so. Turn it 90 degrees. And we have a nice garlic mince. Again, none of this needs to be super finely diced. We're just getting it chopped up. And we'll just kind of set that on the cutting board as well. Garlic is sticky, so I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off my fingers, wipe off the knife. And there we go. I'm also going to take these eggs and just set them over on the side because we are just letting them sit for 14 minutes in that super hot water. That will cook them perfectly. What else do we need for our queso? Green onions, our cheese. Perfect. So grab some cheddar, some fontina, and some cojita cheese. These are awesome cheeses for queso. Let's switch to this camera here. And we are actually going to weigh our cheese out as we grate it. Let me go ahead and get some of these piles out of the way. If you add too much cheese to your queso, what's going to end up happening is it's going to get super, super thick, which isn't so much of a problem, but if you're more consistent, it just becomes less of a problem. So we are actually going to weigh all of this out. And we're going to start with our fontina. Fontina is a beautiful, melty, lovely cheese. And I want this grater. And we're going to do grams today. So for our fontina, we want about 100 grams of cheese. What am I looking for? I don't know what I'm looking for. Again, like I said, it's been one of those weeks. Just busy. Go ahead and get this cut. Oh, I know what I'm looking for. Just a napkin or something to be able to put the cheese on so it doesn't get the scale dirty. And just be careful with your knife, especially if they're as dull as mine are. And we'll get the plastic off. And then also this layer of wax fontina generally tends to come with. We're going to peel this off as well. Get our paring knife under there. There we go. And we'll do the same with this side. You can absolutely just use all cheddar if you want. But I like the 3 different kind of flavor profiles. The cojita is very, very salty. Fontina is a little bit more buttery. A little bit smoky. Just a lovely cheese. And we're going to keep our cheese grater horizontal like this. And then just grate our cheese through it. It's a lot easier. A lot... you don't have to put as much weight into what you're trying to grate. We're going to go ahead and zero the scale out. And we're just going to shred until we get about 100 grams of fontina. So that's 38, 39. So about double that. Just get rid of that. There we go. $64. And yep, 99.9, so that's about 100. That works for me. I'm actually going to put the cheese in a bowl. I'll explain why in just a second. Grab our cheese into the bowl. And then what we're going to do is we're going to shred our cheddar cheese next. Yeah, because I use them, and I don't sharpen them very often. I'm not, it's one of the few things that I'm not good at, is sharpening my own knives. And I always forget to take them to a sharpener. So it gets to the point where I'm just like last week I couldn't cut through an apple skin. So that's how dull my knives are. So I just need to make time to either take them to go get sharpened or to sharpen them myself. I just have not had the time. So we're working on that. All right, we want 125 grams of this cheddar. Let's check that. It's about 75 grams. So I'm going to see if I can do another 75 grams. I'm just going to go ahead and move that into the bowl. Get it out of my way. I'm actually going to do another 50 grams because another 75 would make it 150, and that's not what I want. Let's do 50 grams. It's about 40. I'll do just a little bit more here. 57. I'll take it. Perfect. And last but certainly not least, we're going to go for the cojita, which we may or may not even need the shredder for, the cheese grater. Actually, just put them both in the same bag. Make it easy. Cojita tends to kind of crumble apart on its own, so we'll see. Plus, it's going to be melted, so you don't need to put too much effort into this. Just get about 25 grams out. And this will give it a nice kind of natural saltiness. What is that? That's 45 grams. 24 and a half. 26. I'll take it. I'll get this grater off into the sink. Do my dog out of my way. Going for little cheese bits. And we're just going to crumble this into the bowl with the rest of the cheese. And you can see that it just kind of falls apart. It's a dry cheese. It's really nice. And we're actually going to use a little bit at the end to kind of garnish our dish. Okay. There we go. Give that a quick mix and get it out of the way. We're just going to set this aside for now because we're going to use it again. And now, go ahead and grab all these little cheese bits that are kind of all over the cutting board and get them out of the way. And I'm just going to wad them up into a little ball of cheese like so. And puppy dog gets a little treat. Oh, puppy. Okay, so you can get all that too. Enjoy. Next up, we're going to grab 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. We're actually going to toss it in with the cheese. Let's see. Just like that. And by tossing it with the cheese, we're actually coating and kind of distributing it before putting it into the queso. It's going to help thicken up the sauce. But a lot of people just dump it in and try and stir it around and it kind of clumps. By spreading it around on the cheese, you're actually kind of dusting it on each little piece of cheese, and it incorporates as the cheese melts much, much nicer. And all you got to do is move your hand around and kind of get everything coated. You probably will have little bits of cornstarch just kind of on the bottom. That's fine. Don't worry too much about it. The idea is just breaking that giant, like, bleh of cornstarch that you normally would put in up into finer powder. Hey Siri, stop the timer. So our eggs are done. And what we're going to do is grab ice from your fridge, or just run the eggs under cold water. But what we're going to do is make an ice bath and chill them for the next little bit. Come on, I'll show you. We got a bowl full of ice. We're just going to fill it with water. Doesn't have to be super full, just enough to kind of cover the ice. Now we've got a little ice bath. And we're going to take our eggs, pour out the water, and then transfer the eggs into the ice bath. And what this is going to do is shock them, cool them off so that we can handle them, and also kind of pull the whites away from the shell so that when we peel them, they should come out fairly clean. We're just going to take this back with us and leave it out as things kind of cool down. So we'll set that over there. And that's essentially what we need to do with the eggs until we get to the part where we're going to peel them and do all of that. Let's see what we got left for our queso. We got our cheddar, we got our fontina, we got our green onions, we got our garlic, tomatoes. We're going to put together a real quick spice blend as well. My cat is hiding in a cabinet. Come on, get out. Yeah, you, go away. One of the problems of doing all this live is you have no say over what your animals are doing. We're going to grab some cumin. We're going to grab some onion powder. We're going to grab some cayenne pepper. 1/2 teaspoon of each. And we're just going to kind of put them all in a little bowl. You don't have to do this, but again, for queso, I like to have everything kind of in the same spot, so I'm not trying to chase things down while I'm cooking it, because it almost goes like a stir fry. We're not going that hot, but things tend to happen pretty quickly, so I just like having things ready. We're going to go with about a half teaspoon of red cayenne pepper, half a teaspoon of onion powder, and a half a teaspoon of cumin. There we go. We've got our cornstarch in there already. And we're also going to get our evaporated milk ready. On the top of the can, it does say shake well. Make sure you do before you open the can, because it can separate. And don't use condensed milk. Condensed milk is super sweet, very thick and kind of creamy. This is much more liquidy. But just make sure you give it a good shake. Knife Dude at the Shadelands Farmers Market on the Saturday is great. Oh, yeah. I need to find a person like that. I need to find a good... So I'm going to go check him out for sure. We're going to do condensed milk, and what else are we doing? Fire roasted chilies. So, you can totally do these chilies by hand. Like, you can go out and fire roast them if you want. It's not quite barbecue weather here yet. So, I have a nice little can. I already used half of it for the photo op earlier this week, so I'm just going to use the rest of this can of fire roasted chilies. Go ahead and use this bad boy. Beautiful chilies. Tastes really good. You can get them mild, you can get them hot, whatever your preference is. For queso, I like them a little bit more mild. And we're going to go ahead and open this can and then get started with our queso. If you're using evaporated milk, go for the whole fat milk. Tends to be a little bit creamier, melts better with the cheese and everything. This is the way. We're going to go ahead and get this heat on. We're going to put it on like a medium-high. And we're going to grab a pat of butter or oil, whatever your preference is. I like using butter. Just about a tablespoon. We want this on like a medium-high heat. You don't need it too hot. You don't need it like in that medium-low range that we've been cooking in. Medium-high is good. We've got all of our stuff ready to go. And once the butter starts to melt, it's going to start kind of sizzling and evaporating off some of the moisture in it. That's great. As soon as it's done melting, we're going to put our onions in. We do not want the butter to start browning yet. As we're mixing things, if it browns a bit, that's fine. But what we want it to do is melt, give us our nice buttery flavor, and then we're going to start adding the rest of our aromatics to it. So just keep it moving until the pat is melted, and then we're going to go straight in with our onion whites. And unfortunately, you guys can't really see the pan, so I'll probably adjust the zoom on this just a bit at some point. Butter's melted. We're going to go right in with our onion whites, just like so. There we are. One tried to escape. I'm not going to let it, because I want my onion flavor. We're going to get that nicely tossed in the butter so that it can start simmering. Get some good onions in here kind of going. That's what you want. We're going to keep them on the heat for about 2-3 minutes until they soften. And you can use a wooden spoon or a spatula, whatever your preference is, just to kind of keep these guys moving around. This is also a great time to add just a little bit of salt. It'll help these onions kind of sweat a little bit, give off a bit more of their moisture. Add just a couple of turns of cracked black pepper. Again, kind of to your preference. And we're just going to keep this going. Now you can see if we were trying to also dice up tomatoes or garlic or anything else at this point, we kind of got our hands full. And you don't really want to let this sit because that's when things are going to start kind of burning. And with the queso, you want the nice, bright, fresh flavors. You don't want burned flavors. You don't want toasty flavors. So we're just going to keep this moving. It's softening, so I'm going to go ahead and add my garlic. Just like so. Again, just keep it moving. You're going to start getting that garlic flavor, the garlic aroma in the air. But we don't want to brown our garlic. We don't want it to start caramelizing. So we want to keep moving the pan. So we got some onions in there, we got some garlic, nice and simmering away. No color change yet, which is what we want. We want to keep it nice and kind of like raw-ish, but not totally raw. And we accomplish that by just keeping everything moving. All right, we're going to grab our tomatoes and go ahead and put those in. And they're going to release some of their liquid, some of their juice. This is when things start getting a little bit X-rated. Got juices all over the place. Yum. Smells amazing. Didn't know we were going to be getting into some juicy slurpy sounds, did you? A little bit more salt just for the tomatoes to kind of release some of their fluid. And just kind of keep this moving. And now it basically smells like almost a toasted caprese salad, which is really, really interesting. It's a really yummy smell. Keep everything just kind of moving in the pan. And really with the tomatoes, you don't need to cook them very long. You just kind of want to take that raw edge off. And everything in the pan right now, by the way, you can see is still, there's no toasting going on. Everything is still kind of fresh, light. It's just getting cooked. It's just kind of condensing the flavor as it evaporates off the moisture. Oops. There you go. Take our spice mix, just kind of mix it up and loosen it up. And we're just going to sprinkle it on top of everything. And then again, give it a nice little stir. You can absolutely do this on the heat, but what we're doing is just kind of giving the spices a little bit of a toast so that they don't have that raw spice flavor on them. Keep it moving, keep it moving. Perfect. And last but not least, fire roasted chilies in. These are already somewhat cooked, so we really just need to kind of warm them through. And that's about all we're doing with those in the pan. Oh, losing some of their moisture, so they're not flipping the way they used to. Here we go. Now I'm actually going to leave this off of the heat. We're going to go in with our condensed milk. I'm sorry, our evaporated milk. Do not use condensed milk. Not that I've ever made that mistake before. It wasn't pretty. We're going to go ahead and stir this through. You'll notice that we started this off the heat. I do want you to do that. Otherwise, the milk can start boiling pretty quickly. And we want to make sure that everything is nicely incorporated first. There we go. Let's see if I can move this over here just for today. Perfect. We'll get this to medium-high. I'm actually going to turn it down to medium. I want the milk to start simmering, but I don't want it to boil. And when you start boiling milk, even evaporated milk, things can get weird and start tasting really bad really quick. So we want it to start simmering, but we don't want it to start burning or boiling. At this point, just kind of keep it moving. And probably medium-high is fine. But as soon as it starts bubbling, this is a recipe you want to watch. You want to back off the heat just to a simmer. even to the point of cutting the heat and then slowly raising the heat until it starts simmering again. You really don't want this to start boiling. And actually, at this point, we can go ahead and add our onion greens. Like so. And we just want to keep things moving. We're getting some steam, which is great. We're getting a little bit of that moisture kind of cooking off, evaporating, which is what we want. I'm actually going to grab a small spoon and just kind of taste this broth really quick. And really what I'm tasting for is the heat, which tastes pretty good. And I'm just going to add a little bit more salt. The cheese is going to have a lot of salt in it, so what I'm trying to kind of do is get it just slightly less salty than I wanted. And then the cheese will kind of make up the rest. I find that it's harder to add the salt and get it nicely incorporated once you've added the cheese and this starts to thicken up. I find that it's a little easier if you can try to go for just shy of where you want it at this state. Yum. And then just let the cheese take it to the final spot. Perfect. We'll use this opportunity to catch up on our hydration. And we're starting to boil. We'll back that off. Quickly give it a stir, because that'll cool things down. Maybe even take it up off the heat a bit. And then we just want this to start simmering. So if you're using an induction plate or an induction stove like mine, I can just set the temperature. Boiling point of water is, I think, 212 Fahrenheit. So I usually go about 215, 220, and that usually keeps it right at about a simmer, or just under it. If you're using a gas stove, you can always find the spot where it can keep the water at a simmer, or the liquid at a simmer, and just always kind of go to that as a default, and then adjust if you need to up or down. And so in this case, I'm going to go up just a bit, because I do want it to start kind of bubbling, but I don't want it to go to rolling boil. What is it they say about a watched pot never boils? It's actually a lie, by the way. They boil just fine. Give this a quick toss. And I am seeing the edges kind of start to bubble. So what I'm going to do is just add my cheese in a little bit at a time. Remember, this is dusted with cornstarch. So we're going to add it. It's going to start kind of melting into the evaporated milk. And that cornstarch is going to start incorporating as well. And all we need to do is just kind of stir it through until it's smooth. And our queso is done. You can see that it's getting a lot more cheesy, a lot more creamy. As we kind of stir this in, and it melts in to incorporate. I had a friend of mine actually ask me, a colleague of mine ask me, hey, what do you think about people putting like shredded beef into their queso or any kind of other meat like chicken? And, if you really want to, you probably could. I don't think it's going to ruin anything. However, it's just as easy to kind of keep those on the side. And honestly, I think it's a little bit more food safe that way. Because I don't know, but I have a sneaking suspicion that if you add a bunch of meat to this, it's just going to kind of go bad quicker. But that's just purely my own like headcanon. I don't know if that's actually the case. But personally, I would probably leave the meat out. Maybe put a side dish with some additional shredded whatever it is that you want to put in there, and let people kind of dress things the way that they want it. There's the last of our cheese. You can see that it's bubbling just slightly. This is what we want for a simmer. Just like a boop, and then a boop, and then a boop, and then a boop. Perfect for a simmer. We'll just stir all of this in. And we can actually turn off the heat now, because this is going to have enough carryover heat to finish melting the cheese without burning it. Because again, you don't want to scorch the cheese. You're just going to get bad flavors. And here we go with our queso. Beautiful. Get this bad boy off. Move this out of the way. Now the queso will thicken up as it sits, as it cools down. You can always reheat it, put it over a little flame, get a sterno cup or something like that, just a little kind of, catering flame, put it underneath to keep it kind of warm. It'll keep it from thickening up. This won't solidify, or it won't solidify to the point where you can't get it back to being kind of a viscous liquid, but keeping it warm is kind of key. You can, if you want, if you think you're going to be serving this more at like room temperature, thin it out with some heavy cream or some whole milk. Don't use any of the lesser fat milks, because what you'll get is some water separation, whereas the whole milk or the cream will kind of emulsify with the fat from the cheese a lot nicer. So there we go with our queso. Let me go this way actually. Grab a quick serving dish. Like so. And you can just watch as this kind of oozes out into the bowl. And look at that. Delicious queso. And if you did it right, you shouldn't have anything sticking. I mean, you are going to have to clean the pot, but you shouldn't have any burned bits on the bottom. No burned cheese, no burned veggies. Everything should be cooked and out. Now this is still warm enough to the point where it's kind of jiggly and steamy, so I'm going to set it aside. And I'm actually going to let it cool a bit before I garnish it. Because if you do it while it's this hot, it's actually going to it's going to melt everything that you put on top of it. So now, we're at the point where we should be able to handle our eggs. We're going to grab our ice bath eggs. And we're just going to pull them out. I like leaving the ice bath here, pulling all of the eggs out of the ice bath. And then just cracking them on the cutting board. I like to kind of go just in one circle, basically, like one circumference of an egg. Find the side that has the air pocket, and then just peel from there. And you should be able to peel them straight out of the shell without much sticking, because of the way that we cook them, threw them straight into the ice bath. That actually causes the white to contract just a bit. Be patient with them. You don't have to go super fast. But they should be fairly easy to peel. And if you ever need to, just kind of clean them off. You can dunk them right back into the ice bath, and it'll take any little stray pieces of shell off of the white. And that's usually why I keep the ice bath available. And this one is a little bit sticky. Never going to be perfect. And then this is where you can kind of zen out when you're working on your own and I'm not talking to you. And just kind of enjoy the process of peeling the shells off. And it is worth mentioning, when I did this for the tester, because I always have to cook these dishes twice. One for the photo, for the initial post for the cook-along, and then once again on the day that I'm cooking them. So it is worth mentioning that when I cooked the tester one, these eggs came right out of their shells, no problem. And then, of course, the day that I do it, we're getting less than perfect eggs. So you can do what you need to do your best to mitigate the amount of breaking on the actual egg white, but you can't really control it. So speaking of the Super Bowl, kind of sad that the local team, the 49ers, did not win. Who are you all rooting for? I don't think I have a team. I think I'm just going to kind of enjoy the game. Doesn't really matter who wins. And also just enjoy the snacks. Because that's really the only reason I watch sports. That's not entirely true. I do enjoy sports, but I don't get into the whole kind of like yelling for my team or getting violent because my team's, losing. I just enjoy watching the game. It's always a plus when my team wins. But tomorrow I'm not really rooting for either team. Like I was saying earlier, Hobbit, the eggs in this area, they went right back to the same price that they've always been. They just started limiting us on how many cartons we could get. They did go up for a hot second there, but then they went right back down. This one's getting a little sticky. And you can see that by keeping the egg, or not the egg, but keeping the cold water bath right next to you, if you need to go and kind of clean out the exterior, just get some of those little egg fragments off. It's just as simple as dipping them in the cold water. The shells kind of come off, and you have a clean egg. That's really interesting because you guys have chicken farms up there too, don't you? They're still like, $5.50, $5.49, what they used to be down here per carton. We'll just go ahead and get these guys fully peeled. It's also worth noting that you can totally cook these the day before, peel them, get them ready to go, and then the day of, if you want to make them super fresh, that's when you would cut them in half and make the filling. Ooh, that one does not look pretty. But you know what? It'll still taste fine. Yikes. $1.50 for a carton of eggs. I cannot remember when I have seen a carton of eggs for that low. I think the lowest that I've seen around this area has been like $2.99. You know what? I'm sure Costco has them that cheap. I've never looked at the pricing at Costco. I usually just grab the carton and buy them. If I happen to be at Costco and need eggs. If doing it in the water will help. Nope. Shush, it's just people outside. The weather's great. Quiet. Doggo chirping at some people walking by my front door. Roof. Yeah, that's what you sound like. Roof. Okay, fine. Be loud. Yeah, you're so tough. You know what? I don't think they can hear you out there. All right. Last, but certainly not least, we will get this guy going. And the last one looks the best. That's how it rolls. There we are. Our eggs are cleaned. Get these shells out of the way. Move our ice bath out of the way as well. And we're just basically going to have all of these eggs. We're just going to go ahead and swoop right down the middle. Use a sharp knife if you have one. I don't. So we're going to go ahead and see what we can do. And sometimes it also helps to clean off the knife between cuts, because if you get any of that egg yolk sticking to the knife, it just makes it more difficult to cut through the subsequent eggs. We used to have a cheese slicer that was basically like a really thin piece of wire strung between two metal posts, almost like a little field goal. And that would work excellent for chopping eggs in half. But barring having one of those, paring knife works just as well. We're going to grab a small bowl here. Just something like this. Don't need anything fancy or huge. And we're just going to kind of scoop all of the yolks into this little bowl. Just use your finger. You should be able to kind of get them all out. Get as much of the yolk out as you can. And don't worry about keeping them all like in one piece. If they start crumbling apart, totally fine. We're going to be mashing them anyway. But we do want to get all of the yolk out. From all of these little devils. And we want to grab a fork and just kind of mash them up. If you're doing like a dozen eggs and you have a bunch of yolks, it's totally fine to use a potato masher in a bigger bowl. But since we're not, and I don't, a fork is just fine. And we just want to get these kind of crumbly. You don't need to get them super, super finely mashed or anything like that, but you do want them crumbly. Like so. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is also add about a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne to this, and that's about what I have left in my little cayenne thing. Because you want the eggs to be a little bit spicy. That's the whole point of deviled eggs. They're deviled because they're a little bit spicy. You can, if you'd like, add a little bit of sriracha, Tabasco sauce, whatever your hot sauce of choice is. This is sriracha that has Tabasco in it. Don't add too much of this. I actually did this for a work meeting that we had, and I was told that the egg yolks looked a little bit brown, and it was because I had added too much of this. So people didn't want to eat the deviled eggs because they thought that they were already going bad. So just a couple of drops of that if you want a little bit extra spice, a little bit of extra depth. But really what you're looking for is that cayenne to give you the bite. We're also going to add some dill or sweet relish, your choice. 1.5 tablespoons. I happen to prefer dill, but if you enjoy sweet relish, go for it. They're your deviled eggs. We're also going to grab a little handful of chives. Set this over here. That's cold now. I want to end up with about a tablespoon of chopped chives. This will give us a nice little oniony kind of bite in the deviled eggs. There we are. Probably use a little bit more chives. And really kind of play it by ear. Deviled eggs are not a recipe where you really need to follow any kind of a set scale. Other than the 6 or 12 eggs, if you want more onion flavor, add more chives. If you want more heat, add more cayenne. If you want more of the pickle flavor, add more relish. If you don't want any of it, just do the egg yolks. It's really what you want to make it. There we go. That'll be about a tablespoon with both of those all together. Perfect. Yum, yum, yum. What else do we need? We need Tabasco, cayenne, salt. Yeah, we are going to add a little bit of salt to this. Probably a little bit more salt than you think you need. We can always adjust later. So just kind of start with a good pinch and then figure out where you want to go from there. We want mayo. And we want John. Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon? But of course. All right, we want 2 tablespoons of mayonnaise. I like to say generous tablespoons. There's 1. There is 2. And there is generous. Perfect. Set that over there. We're going to come back to this for our French onion dip. And then we want about a teaspoon of Dijon. All right? Yeah. Perfect. We'll get that over there as well. Out of the way. And we're just going to mix all of this together until it becomes somewhat smooth. This is going to be our deviled egg filling. And we're just going to stir it and mash it with our fork until it comes together. Let's go ahead and switch over here. You can see kind of what it's looking like, what it's doing. In this case, it's a nice yellow color because I didn't add too much of that Tabasco sauce. But be aware that if you do, it might turn a little bit of a deeper color and people might not be convinced that they're actually fresh eggs. There we go. Give it a taste. That is good. Oh yeah. Go back over here. We're going to use our old piping bag trick, where we just grab standard Ziploc or any kind of zip top bag. We're going to scoop our eggs into this. I like to use, where did my spatula go? It disappeared. I like to use a spatula to just kind of scrape everything off of the inside of the bowl and get it into the bag. Because you'll find that this stuff kind of disappears as you pipe it onto the into the egg whites faster than you want it to. You actually end up with a little bit more volume, but it disappears pretty quick. So I like to get as much of it off of the bowl as I can. There we go, nice clean bowl. And then I kind of like scrape it off of the spatula as best I can. Sometimes it works better than others. And then all of this, I just try to kind of consolidate into one corner of the bag. Like so. I leave a little bit of an air pocket on the side opposite of where the filling is. Just an opening so that air can escape. And then I just try to kind of squeeze everything into the corner. Just like that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take all of my little eggies, arrange them. If you have a deviled egg platter, which I do, but I didn't go looking for it before I started the episode, so I apologize for that. Set them in the platter right now. If you don't, like me, just kind of lay them out on the cutting board so that they're easy to go from one egg to the other and fill. And there's our 12 deviled eggs because we had 6 eggs. We're going to go ahead and cut off the corner using either paring knife, regular knife, or kitchen scissors. And you want to make sure that the hole is big enough that the chives and the relish will come through. Because I've done it before where I've cut it too narrow and then everything kind of clogs up. Hey, geez, how's it going? And then we're going to go ahead and just fill these eggs up with our egg yolk filling. Just like that. We'll switch over here and I'll show you kind of close up what I like to do. See if I can get this a little bit. There we go. Just like that. I take the tip of the piping bag and I basically put it all the way into the egg, and then I start squeezing so that it fills up the bottom and the sides, and then I just kind of lift it up as I squeeze. Was my finger in the way on that one? Probably. Do it with this one. So piping bag in, all the way down to the bottom. I squeeze until it fills up the entire cavity, and then I just kind of lift up the piping bag. And that's how I get a nice full deviled egg. I'm just going to do that with all these eggs over here. Fill and fill and fill and fill and fill. And I did a pretty good job on this batch because I still have plenty of filling. You'll find that sometimes you do this and you're just like, I don't have anything left. I'm already at the last egg. So this is going to be a great batch of deviled eggs. And then if I have to fill anything extra, like this one here, you can see there's a little pocket here that I missed. I'll actually come in from a different side, kind of stick the tip into the filling, and then just keep piping it so that it makes it kind of bulge out as opposed to trying to kind of fill it from the top, because then it just kind of falls over. There we go. There we go. And then I'll just use the rest of the filling on all of the rest of the eggs so that they're all about filled equally. Perfect. Deviled eggs are done. I do want to plate them on something, so we'll just grab this, and I'm just going to start arranging them like so. We can do 4, and then we can do 3 rows of 4 for 12. Like that. This. And there we go with our deviled eggs. Now to garnish these, I like to just use regular or smoked paprika. And I just kind of tap on the bottle or on the jar. Give them a nice little dusting on the top. Adds a bit of visual contrast. Gives them a nice little additional sweetness, because paprika is just a sweet pepper. And then last but not least, I like to grab a couple of very long and about the same size chives. And by size, I mean like width, thickness, something like this. And I'd like to cut about inch-long spears, something like that. And then just kind of top the chives with these. Just swoop, like so. Just to make them look a little bit more interesting. Give them a little bit more of an onion crunch. Totally optional, but makes it look pretty fun. Looks like I need 3 more. So here we are. Cut them all about the same again. 1, 2, 3. And there we go with our deviled eggs, ready to go. Now these will keep in the fridge, so you can absolutely make these today and take them over for the sports ball game tomorrow, and they'll still be good. If you have an airtight container, might be the better way to do it, just because it'll kind of keep them all in one spot. Let's do that. And there are our deviled eggs. Look at that. Now what I did yesterday, which is what gave me a little bit of flack, is I also went and added just a little drop of sriracha to each egg as well, just to kind of indicate that they're a little bit hot. The problem is the sriracha is not going to stay in a little ball like that on top. It's going to start spreading out too, because it's not congealed enough to not move. So it's just going to start looking kind of weird. So up to you if you want to do that or not. I wouldn't recommend it. I've gotten bad feedback because of it. So, but those are the deviled eggs. Now I'm going to set these aside for now. Sit there We're going to go back to our queso. Queso has hardened up just a bit, so you may throw it in the microwave. It's still jiggly underneath the kind of skin that's formed, which is fine. But the skin is actually good, because what we can do is we can take some additional cojita and crumble it like so. But really, before we do this, maybe a little bit extra cayenne or a little bit of extra paprika. And again, we're just going to go with a little bit of extra visual flair here on the cheese. And I am not showing you the right camera. There we go. And then we might take this and just kind of sprinkle it right around the middle. Just like that. And again, it just gives it a little bit of an extra kind of visual interest rather than just a bowl of yellow cheese. Let's go ahead and switch over here. There's our queso dip. Looks amazing. You can see that it's kind of sliding out the back, and it is still viscous. It's still moving. It has formed a little bit of a skin on the top, but that's fine. That's normal. We'll get that over there for now. And last, but certainly not least, let's go ahead and make our French onion dip. This is the easiest bit of tonight. Super, super simple. Could not be more simple. We're just going to grab a large bowl. We're going to grab a 16-ounce container of sour cream. We're going to grab, let's see, I have the mayonnaise out already. I think it's a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise, 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. And French onion soup mix. This is the stuff I use. It's just from Knorr. It's really good. It's got just the right amount of salt, just the right amount of seasoning. You don't have to worry about caramelizing onions, which is kind of a pain in the ass. And all you got to do is do a 16-ounce container of sour cream plus a 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Let's just go ahead and do this. This is a 1/4 cup. Get another 1/4 cup here. That'll be our 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. Like so. I have a bowl of ice water that I can just throw everything into, which is beautiful. Get in there, stay clean. All right. Mayonnaise is done. We got our 1/4 cup. Got our 16 ounces of sour cream. Don't use the half-fat sour cream. Use the full-fat sour cream. It tastes better. It's better for you. Just going to go ahead and get this emptied out. I guess I want that spoon back. Come here, spoon. A little bit of ice water. Never hurt any French onion dip. There we go. I swear, my mom used to make this a long time ago. I mean, she still makes it, but I used to love my mom's French onion dip. And then I tried making my own French onion dip by actually caramelizing onions and going through the whole 1.5-hour process, get all of that going. And I was super excited to try it, and it did not taste anything like what I was expecting. And actually not any better, in my opinion, than what this tastes like. So I decided I was never going to do that again. And I probably will at some point, but I'm not in any hurry. I like to use a whisk to incorporate all of this. Go ahead and switch to this camera, just because you can do it real quick. Already smells amazing. There we go. French onion dip is done. If you want to add a little bit of a upscale to it, grab a nice big clump of chives. And we'll just go ahead and give these guys a dice. Or rather a slice, not dicing them. There we are. Into the French onion dip. And now you've got a little bit of a fresh, kind of chivy onion flavor in with the rest of the onion dip. Oh, we are on that camera. So you can see here, just going to kind of mix it in. And that adds just a bit of freshness to the dip. And it does kind of disappear, so you might keep a little bit extra to kind of garnish with. So, right now, got our beautiful queso dip, our amazing looking deviled eggs. Do something like this. Let's go ahead and get our French onion dip plated. 2 seconds while I find an interesting bowl. Go. Again, I'm going to go ahead and grab a spatula for this part, because I can scrape off the onion dip from all of the sides and get as much of it as possible into the serving bowl. The other great thing about this is you can scale these up super easy. If you have a ton of people coming over, or you're going to a party where you know there's going to be a ton of people, you can absolutely just double or triple the recipes, and they work just fine. You don't have to do any kind of weird conversions or anything like that to try and get them to work well. Let me go ahead and we will do this. Now look at my ceiling. Interesting, isn't it? And that. And this. Come here, cable. There we go. And we'll switch over to that camera. We've got our queso, we've got our French onion dip, and we've got our deviled eggs ready for the Super Bowl tomorrow. Last thing I'm going to do, since I mentioned it, take some chives over here. And just sprinkle them over the onion dip. And again, you get that little visual contrast of the green against the white. Makes it look much more tasty. And if it looks good, it will taste better. That's why your taste buds are kind of expecting that little hit of onion. Beautiful. Now, the only thing left to do, grab some chips and dig in. Grab an actual nice looking tortilla chip. There we go. And we'll switch back over to this camera. So, I don't know if you guys heard that, but some guy with a real small dick just drove by. This is what our spread looks like. We got our beautiful deviled eggs. We got our beautiful onion dip. Looks amazing. Probably is going to taste amazing. And I guess I can do that. Y'all can see me, and y'all can see all the food. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a deviled egg. These are stunning. Absolutely stunning looking. Probably need to change the white balance on that, but that's fine. You guys get the gist. I might have put a little bit too much Dijon in mine, but for me, that's not a bad thing. I really like that. That is good. Got that dill from the pickle. Definitely get the heat from the cayenne, but it's not overpowering. You just know that it's there. And you get a little bit of that zing from the Dijon, the vinegar kind of zing in the background. Really good. Got our creamy queso over here. You can see that you do have that kind of skin on the top, but it's just fine. It's great queso underneath. Coating the chip pretty nicely. You know, I love getting queso at Chipotle. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Their queso ain't got nothing on this. This is absolutely delicious. And I know what went in this. Whereas, who knows what they made theirs out of. I'm sure it's all natural. I'm not trying to diss Chipotle. I'm still gonna get queso from them, but this is just really, really good. And then our onion dip on our ruffled potato chips. Yep. Classic onion flavor. Tastes just like what my mom used to make. Well, hopefully y'all give these a try. If you haven't had a chance to make these today, there's still time before tomorrow's big game. I think it starts at 3:30. So go ahead and put these together. Grab the ingredients. They're listed at the website, cookalong.live. That is the website address, cookalong.live. And you'll see up at the top a coming soon for tonight's episode. Hopefully by later tonight, I'll change that to just a regular post about it. And you guys can give these a try. It's an amazing way to show up at a Super Bowl party, bringing gifts, and everyone will enjoy these. Totally tame, totally delicious, not too spicy, even though we are using quite a bit of cayenne in these. And just a wonderful way to kind of greet your neighbors or greet your friends as they open the door and you show up at their house for a party. Or as they walk into your house with whatever drinks they're bringing. Great way to kind of get the games going. Go ahead and subscribe, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see notifications of when new cook-alongs are coming. We do them every weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. I just kind of choose the day based on what's going on that weekend. This weekend, we got a big football game tomorrow, so I don't want to pull a bunch of people from that broadcast so that they're watching my cook-along and missing the game, because I know that's what would happen. So I decided I would schedule myself on Saturday just to give the NFL a little bit of a, some breathing room. But next weekend we might do it on Sunday if there's nothing going on Sunday. I think Sundays are going to be the primary pick day. It's just easier for me. But yeah, I'm not opposed to Saturdays. All of that information will be on the website, cookalong.live. You can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Just look up Cookalong Live. You'll find my smiling mug in the profile photo, and you can follow me there. I post all the ingredients, or at least links to the ingredients, and what we're going to be cooking the following weekend, or this coming up weekend, on those posts or on those pages, usually before the YouTube video link goes up. And then if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll see it's an upcoming video in your feed or in your subscriptions area once I get those videos, the live stream links up anyway. So there's a bunch of different ways to keep in touch, keep following, or keep in contact with what's coming up on the channel. Next week, like I said, I'm actually going to be out of town for a work trip, but I've already recorded the cook-along, it's going to be breaking down a cooked crab, Dungeness crab. So that'll be a lot of fun if you've never done it before. Go ahead and pick up a cooked crab. They are in season right now, so should be nice and tasty. And then I think the weekend after that, if all goes to plan, we might be making cioppino. We have done cioppino-style risotto on the channel before, but I think maybe this time we'll just do like a full-on cioppino. That was the reason for the scallops a couple of weeks ago. We're kind of trying to build up towards the cioppino. So hopefully that all goes to plan. In any case, have a wonderful rest of your Saturday evening. Have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go sports ball teams, yay. Enjoy the snacks at your game. And I'll see you next week on another wonderful Cook Along Live. Good night, everybody.